Hello everyone, and welcome to our dandelion lesson for this week. I'm gonna light a candle. I hope you are all doing very well. And it's time for some nice painting. I have an idea for what I want to paint today. I thought it was time we do a tiny moss pot again, but I wanted to do one that was sort of holiday-ish, solstice or Christmas, Yule, that kind of feeling, with a little pine tree and a moss pot. It just sounded like a lot of fun, and I've got my Deep Light Winter Night set that I love so much. I think it's just such a really beautifully balanced palette for this time of year, and included is Malachite by Essie Colors. But anyways, any palette is fine. We're going to use basic greens and browns, so maybe a little blue. And then I've got this palette that was custom made for me by Essie Colors. I really love their paints, and this was special, and they actually called this the foliage palette. I chose the colors and they made a little palette of it. I'm just going to swatch the colors for you on the back of this card. So let me get a bigger brush. Hold on. And I should probably wet all of these paints so they're ready to go. So these colors, I chose 4 to use as a combination, and quite frankly they sent me the malachite on the side, and I think the malachite is a really beautiful addition to it. I'm also going to wet my Sumi ink because I'm using that a lot, and I ground ink yesterday for my painting time, but last night, but of course it doesn't last, right? Okay, so let me show you these colors. This one is called Umbra D'Oro. So it's an earth shadow, earth umber color mixed with gold mica. And it's just this beautiful earthy kind of metallic that I love. And you won't see that until it dries, but it does beautiful granulation and flocculation because of the umber pigment, and then it's got this sort of antique gold color. This is Rome Black, which is my favorite black, other than probably peach black. And I love it because it's very warm and gentle, and it has beautiful properties to it. It granulates and does pretty things. And just to show you next to a very inexpensive Sumi ink, not the best quality. See how this is actually a warm black, and look how much warmer this one is. So I really love that one. And then this one was a special color. They don't actually sell this. It's called Shadow. It's sold in a set, but not individually. And it's just this beautiful gray green with a hint of blue. And then this is a very special white. It's made from marble dust. And they do sell this separately, and I really love it. You're not going to see it on here, but I love the way this white paint reacts with other colors. When I drop it in, it usually does some really beautiful things, and it's got a transparency to it that is kind of unusual. So these are colors that I will use for, I could put it into some of the Sumi. So pretty. It does all these little feathery things sometimes and separates into little white dots, and it's just cool. So I have that. Let me just show you the malachite also. These are my colors. You know, if I had to choose 4 colors for wintertime, these are my colors. I love grays and blacks and deep browns, dusty silvery gray greens, white and gold. And this is the malachite, which is stunning. So it looks really nice with those four. So this is kind of my own personal palette. It's very much me, and was made special for me, which is lovely. Okay, and then I should show you these too. These are the Winter Night colors, if you have not seen them. And I should be wetting these also. I believe this is Mars Black, which is a really beautiful, highly granulating black. In fact, if Daniel Smith has Lunar Black, it reminds me very much of that. I believe that is Mother Earth Gray. I don't know all the names offhand. I know most of them. This is Rose Ashes, which is one of my favorite deep, deep light colors. This one is either Blueberry or Bilberry. I can never remember. Or maybe that's Night Raspberry. Or maybe that's Ruda's Dream. I'm not sure, but those colors, they have swatches on their website. That's Stink White, which is a color I can't live without. I have big tins of it. I'll show you. Do I have it with me here? No, I don't have it here. This is Gold Ochre, which is an old standby that is one of my favorite yellows. I'm not a big yellow person. I usually have very few yellows on my intuitive palettes, but I really love Gold Ochre and Yellow Ochre in general. And Raw Sienna. That's probably the color I would add to this is Raw Sienna. I love Raw Sienna. I can't remember what this is called, to be honest with you. This beautiful, beautiful blue-green. Or this one. That is Night Raspberry. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And this again is some kind of blueberry or bilberry. It's beautiful blue-gray. That's called Bark. It's gorgeous, gorgeous brown. Cool. This is one of my other favorites. It's called Asphalt. And this is a deep, deep blue. And that one of these is J, and one of these is deep blue. This is deep blue, and that is J. They're both really gorgeous. J is sort of like an indigo, but it does more. It's just, it's magnificent. That's definitely J. And this is Forget Me Not, which is a very light blue that is so nice for this time of year. I love this color. This is probably my fourth one of these. It's a favorite. And then this is Gerda's Pink, which is a very, very special, gentle color. And so I'm using a lot of water because that's how I use their paints. These can also be made much darker. So those are the colors that I'm going to have handy. And again, you know, I can make greens from Gold Ochre and any of the blues or greens here, any of the colors. So that's what I'm going to do. Aren't they gorgeous? Unbelievable. Okay. All right, and then I have, for paper, I have something new to try with you, and this is called Bee Paper, Bee Paper Company. So I went to the art supply store the other day, I think it was Tuesday, and I was in desperate need of paper. I have just been rummaging for paper, and so I bought 4 different kinds. hoping that one of them would be something that I really loved. And honestly, there isn't one that I really love. The one I love the most right now is the Fluid 100, but they're all okay, right? They're all decent and fine, but I'm not like head over heels about any of them. But this one is interesting. It's made by B Paper Company. It says, excellent for all dry media, all right? Ideal for designing tattoos, for whatever reason. Maybe it's the texture and it's that pointillism texture that you need to be a tattoo artist. So it's 132 pounds. I don't think it's all cotton, but it's acid free. And I'll tell you, it is, it's fine with watercolor. It doesn't say that, but I did some little tests and it took watercolor fairly well. It buckled a little bit, but if you're using it in the texture with graphite is super beautiful. It is like a stipple texture, which I thought was really fun. So I'm going to use this and just see what happens today. Might be kind of fun. So I wanted to talk today about sort of the alchemy that happens when you start to embrace your flaws as your superpower. And I have talked about this many times over the year, but some of you might be kind of new and you may not have ever heard that spiel. And I'm thinking about it right now because I have a few students right now who have essential tremors in their hand, or have shaky hands due to a medical condition, and it's really hard for them because, and I know how this is because I've had issues with my hands too, and I get shaky hands sometimes, and I have no real feeling in these 3 digits, and so it took me a long time to get used to it, and my work may never be how it was before that happened to me, but that's okay because I've continued on. I found new ways of working, and I've gained enough control, and I'm used to it enough to do more detailed things again. But probably never going to be the way it was before this happened. And that's okay, right? Because our art and our mark making and the way we approach our creative projects is fluid, and it's not static, and it should grow and evolve with us throughout our life. And every stage of it is beautiful. All right. And so when you have something that you consider a detriment to your practice, and I don't know what those are. I would love to hear from you what you feel like your blocks are, your like things that make it more difficult for you that are physical. I don't mean finding the time and things like that. That's totally different. But these are actual physical things. I also have vision, correctable vision only in one eye. So I have a tremendous difficulty seeing things that clearly. It's almost impossible for me unless I hold it right in the right place and close one eye, because my left eye is not correctable with glasses. And so I also have a lot of trouble with depth perception. There are things that are really hard for me because of that. And I've gotten used to it, but it doesn't mean it's not still there and that I don't sometimes consider it an impediment, right? But I've learned to work with it. And just like with my hand, they kind of happened around the same time. So for a while I was only painting with my right hand, which really, really changed things. So I've learned, right? I've learned to accept these things about myself, about my person, as my superpowers, as things that make my work unique, all right? And so I want you to think about that and start thinking about what it is in your life that you consider an impediment that's keeping you from doing the work the vision you have. Because there's a disconnect, right? Here's our artistic vision over here. And here's even when we're a beginner, here's our skill level over here. There's a disconnect between the two. There's a gap. There's an area of time that you need to cross with practice, right? And other things. So artistic vision and our real self, right? How can we bring those together so that they're together? How do we start to see our what we consider our impediments as the bridge to this? How does this vision evolve to meet closer to here, right? So these are things that I want you to think about, and I want you to write about them in the comments if you are moved, and we can talk about them further. It's hard for me. I sit here as one person who has her own issues, you know, that she's learning to work with and embrace and consider my gifts. And then you are someone else and you have your own situation. And so I can't predict that. This is such a big spectrum, right? So I would love to hear from you what those are for you. And we can talk about them in the comments, all right? So that's what I wanted to talk about today. And then I wanted to paint a moss pot. So we're gonna use a pencil to just do a very loose drawing here. I'm just gonna draw sort of an oval somewhere on my paper and follow it down. Let it come down here. You can draw any shape you want. I'm gonna round my edges a little bit so it bulbs out. And there's my little pot shape, okay? And in here, there's going to be all sorts of moss. And in the center, there's going to be a little area where a tree happens. And then I'm going to sort of paint a tree. Okay, so I don't need to really draw anything there. I just want to draw my pot because there's going to be moss on here and there's going to be moss on here. It's going to be dripping in moss. All right, and we've done moss many times here. You can go back and you can find lots of little tiny moss pot projects, but today we're going to do it a little bit differently. And I've got, let's see here, looking for something to mix colors in. I'm going to use this if I need to mix a green, but I'm going to try to use the greens I have, and I'm going to build my moss. All right. So I'm going to do it a little bit differently. You can erase extra lines if you want to, but you don't have to. So I'm going to start, I think I'm going to start with this malachite and just start painting some shapes and just sort of put some brush marks down. And then I might grab a little bit of another color while my brush still has one color on it and just sort of build brush strokes up around each other. You can mix a whole bunch of greens up if you want. And if it's too dark, I just put it into my palette and dry it off, but I'm never really cleaning my brush. And by not cleaning my brush, I'm going to put a little yellow on my brush and stick it in my palette. There's my palette. By not cleaning my brush, I'm building color harmony, right? I'm just picking up little bits of these colors and sort of mixing it on my palette. And just making a little puzzle of shapes. I'm going to grab some of this one. Every color. If your brush starts to get too dry, then you can dip it a little bit into water. Take some yellow, put it in there. A little more yellow. Even more yellow. Get some really warm stuff happening here. You can see that this paper takes watercolor really well. It's not an issue, right? even more yellow. And then maybe I'll go back to some of this shadow color for this lower part, because something dark, you know, to ground my vessel. My mossy colored vessel. Maybe I'll add more yellow again. Maybe I'll add some blue. And yellow. Maybe I'll add some white. And I love mosaic type things. I just think they're so pretty when we stick sort of in a color range. Maybe some brighter green. So just let it evolve in these mossy colors. Greens, blues, golds. I'm gonna grab some more malachite. Take it a little bit around the edge there. Then I'm gonna make some green. I'm gonna take whatever green I've got in here going, and I'm gonna add a lot of yellow to it. And I'm just gonna start kind of dabbing it in here. Maybe a little bit more green for parts of it. Kind of stay away from where your tree trunk's gonna be. Maybe even a little bit of Roma black on this edge. I'm gonna rinse my brush now, and I'm just gonna grab some yellow and just sort of fill in with yellow. Keep it real free and easy. And then just a damp brush, and I'm gonna just drop in water. It's okay if some kind of hangs off the edges. Little dots of water. And the water pushes the pigments around. Let the dots come out and down. Maybe they just start flowing down. Keep it and we can paint over them. It doesn't matter. See, I'm just using my brushes. I'm just putting dots down because moss is very much like that sometimes. All right, maybe on this side, get a little yellow in there. Maybe on this side, it kind of drips down a little bit. Of course, my neighbors never fails. Their generator. It's very random. There's some moss. Pretty, huh? I love it. And I'm not going to color in much here on this pot. I might just take a wet brush and pull it around the edge a little bit and just sort of add a little bit of shadow by doing that on this side. See how just by wetting it, they kind of run together and it makes it look a little bit darker. Keep it pretty simple. I just love it. There. And then maybe I'll take a little bit of Sumi ink and I'll put a little bit of shadow coming out. Keep the shadow dreamy, just push some water into it. Let it be. Just really simple. Put a little more Sumi. And let it spread out like a flower. Love that. Okay. All right, so now we're going to build our tree. And if you want to put a little bit of maybe like a dark brown, in the moss, if there needs to be a little bit somewhere, just touch it. It's still wet. Let it be mossy, okay? Okay, so for our tree, we're gonna also keep it really simple, and I'm gonna start with a lighter green, so I can work off what I've used on my moss pot here. I can add some more green or blue to it. I can add a little bit more yellow to it. You can even add red, because red sort of changes a green, right? But I want to stay a little bit lighter. If you have pre-made greens, you can use those. That's fine. So I've got a nice puddle of green here. And I'm going to start sort of up here at the top and just draw a little line that's kind of crooked and start doing some little calligraphic marks that kind of go, and then skip a little bit and do a few more. Do not try to make a tree. Just make little marks that kind of are uneven. Skip a little bit, grab some more paint. Some have a little heavier paint, some are really dainty. Just let it be organic and free. And let it go right into that moss where it needs to. And then make your green a little darker, however you want to do that. And then come up and just put a couple little darker marks toward the bottom. Just don't let it all be one color. Very calligraphic. See, which means just sort of like you were forming, let's say you're trying to form Japanese kanji characters or something. Just very beautiful, fluid little lines. Go a little bit darker down here at the bottom. And then take some brown and connect. Like that. And if you need to pull brown through anywhere, if you need that, if you need a piece that's coming out that might not have any leaves on it, keep it very, very simple. If you want to drop a little brown into your shadow, you can, because why not? And even a little green. Water. Let it be really free. It doesn't have to make perfect sense, okay? It's just beautiful. We don't need any space in our moss, so we can take a little bit of green and drop it in to our moss pot. Maybe our moss needs little bits of darkness here and there. Then I want you to find some gold, whether it's gold gel pen, doesn't matter, gold paint, something gold and sparkly. And I am just going to draw light coming out of the top. Golden light. And maybe there's teeny little flecks of gold here and there on our tree. This is solstice. And then in the center, a little bit of water in a circle. My water is gray. And then just a touch of yellow. And there we have it. Our little moss pot. Winter tree, solstice, Yule, Christmas, whatever you want to call it. Lovely, huh? Okay, everyone, thank you so much for joining me, and have a great weekend. And I will see you hopefully on Saturday for our delightful Zoom with Deep Deep Light. Take care.